It is noon, and I think we have all of our presenters on the call, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. So thank you everyone for joining our session today. We have 3 presenters who all sit in the Information Access and Analytics Services Division in the Office of Information Management, which is in the Office of Mission Support. We have Caitlin Keene, who's a program analyst, Arthur Zuko, who is the CLIC program manager, and Amy Lynn, who is an IT specialist, and they are going to talk to the agency's interns today about data visualization at EPA. So Caitlin, if you want to start us off, that'd be great.
Thanks, Thor. And I'm going to share my slides. Just let me know when you're able to see them. Oh, okay. Seems to be loading. Can you see them?
Yep, we can see them.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so as Thor mentioned, today, Amy, Arthur, and I will be presenting on the different data visualization tools at the EPA. Specifically, we will be focusing on 3 tools: the Data Management and Analytics Platform, also known as DMAP, the EPA Geo Platform, and CLIC. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Amy, who will dive in specifically to the DMAP side of things.
Hey, thank you, Caitlin. Hello, everyone. My name is Amy Lynn. As Thora said, I'm an IT specialist with IAASD, and I handle a lot of the communications and outreach for the DMAP team. So I am going to give you a brief background on DMAP and kind of the history, and then as well as the resources available to help users navigate the platform. So first of all, what is DMAP? Historically, a lot of the data at EPA has been stovepiped across the agency, meaning that it tends to exist in these like independent silos rather than being readily accessible for users. And because of this, there was a need to develop collaborative data science and analytics tools that would allow EPAers to easily share, analyze, and manage data in scientific projects. DMAP, or the Data Management Analytics Platform, is one of these resources that was developed in response to this need. This tool acts as a framework, providing cloud-hosted capabilities that aid in data management and data analysis. DMAP offers things such as data hosting via Amazon Web Services, shared analytics notebooks, data flow connections, and collaboration with different data visualization software. So DMAP can be used for a variety of purposes, including data cleansing and transformation, numerical simulation, statistical modeling, machine learning, and more. These purposes can be achieved using a suite of tools that work in collaboration with DMAP, such as R and RStudio Connect, Python and Jupyter Notebooks, ClickSense, and the Geo platform. These suite of tools can be utilized via DMAP once onboarded as a DMAP user, or they can be accessed independently. So I will then I'm going to move on and give you a quick demonstration of one of our use case examples, DMAP use case examples.
And Amy, I'll stop sharing my screen too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great. So I'm going to hop over to the DMAP SharePoint site. So this is where we share all of our DMAP resources to help users navigate the platform. And I'll be going into a little bit more detail on a few of these resources later in the presentation, but for now, I just wanted to highlight that some of our most helpful resources can be found among these quick links at the top. And that includes things like our FAQ page, tutorials, and like the new to DMAP page. For the project example, I'm going to head over to the DMAP use case examples page, which is right here. On this page, we have a number of use cases, including big data, machine learning, and our studio examples. So I'm going to highlight the discharge monitoring fraud report project. So I'm going to jump down to the big data section. So for a brief background on this project here in the middle, major and selected minor permittees under the National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System program are required to participate in the annual Discharge Monitoring Report Quality Assurance Study Program, or DMRQA. And this evaluates the analytical ability of the laboratories that perform self-monitoring analyses required by the NPDES permit. And prior to DMAP, this project was using complex Oracle queries that spanned across multiple data tables, which even when using the biggest server, took over 20 hours to run. So the group then turned to DMAP and loaded the data into cloud storage and ran the queries using Amazon Web Services. Under this model, the queries were able to run in under 30 minutes, which saved countless hours and increased efficiency for the project overall. So this is a great example of the kind of value that can be provided by DMAP in its suite of tools. And I think that's all I had for the demo.
Thanks, Amy. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so now moving on to the EPA Geo platform. So the EPA Geo platform online, commonly referred to as the GPO, is EPA's instance of Esri's ArcGIS Online, which is a platform for creating and sharing geospatial data, services, and applications. One of the more popular tools, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, are story maps, which can also be accessed through the GPO. Story maps are a map-centric presentation tool designed for web communication. They allow developers to blend multiple forms of media with map projects to communicate environmental information more effectively. Anyone with a LAN ID can establish a GeoPlatform account by logging in. Benefits of the Geo platform, apart from just being a one-stop shop for geospatial analysis, map making, and app making, the Geo platform also provides a working platform for publishing and hosting geospatial content to the public or just across the organization. System security is managed for the entire platform on behalf of all map makers and application makers, and it serves as a repository of discoverable and shared EPA geospatial data. Example applications within the GPO include ArcGIS story maps and hub sites, but EPA also has several national tools hosted in the GPO, such as EJ-Screen, NEPA Assist, EnviroAtlas, Power Plants and Neighboring Communities Mapping Tool, and the EPA Facility Status COVID Dashboard. So each tool is linked in these slides, so once we share these, I really encourage you to explore these tools. So now I'm going to move over to the demo, and I'll be highlighting two different services. The first being the underground storage tank map, underground storage tank map services, sorry, UST. And if you click the link on the slide again, this will take you directly there. Before I switch screens, just quickly, this service is a national layer of linking underground storage tanks, underground storage tank facilities, and underground storage tanks as of 2018 to 2021. So I'll stop sharing this and then switch screens really quick. Okay, so here is the UST Finder. So again, this is all hosted on the Geo platform online, but you can see here all of the different layers loaded into the map and all of the data that's in this one application. So looking at this application, when I go under the layer list, I can turn on and off different layers and really filter for what I want to view. And I apologize, there's probably a lag, it's a lot of data. But so again, just clicking on whichever layers I see fit. And this has a ton of functionality too, so you can filter, see what's near you, get some summaries, all of that awesome information. Also, just by clicking on the different points in the map, you can get pop-ups, just really, again, diving into the data itself. So I mentioned this earlier, but I really encourage you to kind of explore this stuff on your own. It's a really great way to learn what you can do within the Geo platform. And the second, I guess, application that I want to highlight is the SEGS Data Discovery Tool. So SEGS, the Shared Enterprise Geodata and Services, is an EPA-curated collection of recommended geodata assets that are nationally relevant and support the EPA's mission. But by collecting this data, we're promoting service reuse, and SEGS really aims to provide data access, reduce data storage costs, and improve consistency and quality of data across the agency. So this tool was made using an Esri Hub site, which I mentioned earlier, but it's a really great way to have and categorize this data in one spot. So let's say I'm making a map and I know that I need certain boundaries. I can click on this category here. It loads and it takes me to all of the different like EPA recommended data sets that we have involving boundaries. So you can scroll through here, see what we have to offer. There's a ton of data in here, so it's a really great place to kind of start at if you're trying to gather your data. And then here on these top tabs, there's specific topics. Let's say you're interested in climate change, you can also click this and it directs you to the geospatial resources involving climate change. So again, a really great resource to just dig through, see what data we have to offer. I guess with that, I will turn it over to Arthur for Click and I can load my slides.
All right, the best is here. Everything else is just the rest. So Click is EPA's enterprise data analytics and visualization software. It's a mouthful. It's a business intelligence software. If you've ever heard of Power BI, Tableau, Looker, any of those, there's dozens out there. Click is EPA's enterprise tool. And by enterprise, that means it's available to everyone at the agency. So there's going to be a number of resources at the end. I encourage you to make use of those. One in particular I will show during the demo has our calendar. So we have actually more of a program overview tomorrow for 45 minutes. If you've already attended that, there's actually a hands-on workshop also tomorrow from 1 to 3. So lots of training resources, lots of links that are going to be included in the slide decks as they go out. But Click is characterized, and business intelligence software in general is characterized about bringing together a variety of different data sets. It might be geospatial data, might be a text file, Excel, something you have an Oracle database, something in SharePoint. Bring it all together, visualize it to make it a little bit more meaningful, exploratory. You dive in, ask questions as you're kind of going into the detail. You might see a spike in a line chart and be curious about the time from when that happened and maybe why it happened. Click empowers you to do that, and the BI tools in general allow you to do that. So as I mentioned, it has a number of data source connectivity options. There are hundreds of different data sources out there. Web files, SharePoint lists are pretty popular. Oracle databases are also pretty popular. So I'm going to pivot over to the demo and show you a most recent example. So this is going to be our landing page. This is our intranet page. Please peruse this when you are able. It tells you how to access. This is the calendar I mentioned earlier. And so I'll be hosting the CLIC webinar, the EPA Basics CLIC in 45, give you the program overview. You're kind of getting a taste of that today anyway. And then there's those hands-on workshops that CLIC actually sponsors. So last month, Deputy Administrator McCabe on July 11th put out a mass mailer regarding the return to workplace snapshot survey results. We use CLIC to visualize those results, ingest all that data that came in. This is the second survey that we've done. The first one was future of work related. There were about 10,000 responses. This one was a little bit on the lighter side, over 2,700 respondents, but logging a lot of different data points. And so this mass mailer came out via email on work.epa.gov. They put it out here, but let's take a look at that in the CLIC's sense. So this is the URL. When you're on the VPN, you can access clicbiz.epa.gov and you're brought into your private workspace. These are all my apps that are out there. Sharing of content is organized into what's called streams. And so when you organize or want to share with somebody else, you publish an app into there. So you start off by creating an app, and the Return to Workplace app was no different. It had, it has 3 sheets within it, kind of like an Excel workbook. And within that workbook, you have these 3 sheets, and then you can create objects. So as you hover over a bar chart, you can get some information, pop-ups, some of the things that others were talking about as well. And then we present the data in a few other ways. You can arrange it, in this way, some donut charts and things like that. And then, of course, a table, which is always useful as well. But then what CLIC allows you to do is then embed that to make it a little bit easier to digest. So we did that. And here on the work.epa.gov future of work snapshot survey results, here are some of those embedded objects. You can go to the app that I was just showing you, download the data if you just want to get to the Excel file. You can start clicking on some buttons, get an overview on what the this particular mashup is what it's called does. And so you can say, okay, well, these are my filters. Selections are going to be tracked here. There's some undo, redo, clear all buttons that come with it. The bar charts and the KPIs. So here we have, I think there was a total of like 9 questions or something like that. So you can see there are 2,700 responses. First one was regarding overall well-being, and you can see 70% rate their overall well-being is good or great. So this is the power of visualization tools, taking some data that goes out to the entire, or taking a survey that goes out to the entire agency. You get a bunch of information back and data, and then you got to make it make sense to the masses. And so in this particular example, we use CLIC to do that. And so we've logged about over 13,000 accounts since 2016. So there are thousands of apps that are out there, almost 7,000. I certainly don't know all of them that are out there, but we have a really robust community in Teams, the data science community. I encourage you to take advantage of that if you like what you see. Again, join me tomorrow, the program overview and the training workshops. That's all I have.
Thanks, Arthur. Okay, let me slides. Okay, so now switching gears to the training resources. These are all obviously resources that you all can refer to and really dive deeper into the tools if you choose to do so. So first up, the DMAP training resources. So I'll turn it back over to Amy.
Hello again, everyone. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, these are some of the training resources that I highlighted at the top of the SharePoint site that are available. All of them are linked here, so you can just, whenever you get the slides, you can click on the links to check out these pages. But a few of the newer ones that we added include the new to DMAP, the use case examples, the tutorials, and the frequently asked questions. new to DMAP is provides like a breakdown of the platform's capabilities, but in a way that's based on a user type. So say if you are coming at it as a data steward and you're curious what DMAP could offer you, it has a little user profile with a an example data problem and how DMAP can help you find a solution to that problem. On the use case examples, we already checked that out, and that has just a bunch of examples of projects across the agency that have leveraged DMAP. And then on the tutorials page, we have just a little collection of resources aimed at helping the users learn how to navigate the platform and the offering. So there you could find some of the resources that Arthur mentioned for a click, some background on what data lakes are, some helpful links to Jupyter Notebooks resources, and etc. And then the frequently asked questions page is just a big list of common DMAP questions that we have gotten in the past. So we put it all into one place. So if you have a question related to accessing DMAP or data hosting or analytics in the notebooks capabilities, try checking out that page and see if there is a helpful answer and or link already there. And then we also have a shared email inbox, which I can share in the chat. I already shared my email, but if anybody has any questions or just want to find out more about DMAP, please feel free to reach out to us and we would be happy to get you started.
So now circling back to some of the geospatial training resources, the first being the Geospatial Hub site. This is a one-stop shop for all GIS training resources that we have at the agency. On there, you'll find links to different story maps, webinar recordings. Pretty much anything that we have is linked on that site. And I guess, you know, to hit on those webinar recordings, we also hold 2 webinars a month highlighting a variety of topics. One is getting started with the Geo platform online, and then we have a part 2 of that which dives into more advanced data topics. If you are interested in attending those webinars, feel free to shoot me an email. I can send you over the invite, but on that hub site we have them recorded, so you can also go and watch them if there's a specific time that works best for you. Next up, the Geospatial Intranet site. This is our EPA site highlighting all of the different EPA training materials. On this site, we also have a calendar of all of our events. So that includes the webinars, any special presentations that we have for that month, and additional resources on how to get started. We also have a pretty extensive community. The GIS community work group meets monthly and covers a variety of topics during the call. It's really a great way just to meet people across the agency who are also interested in GIS, but to also see some of the work that's going on. So I encourage you to attend those. To join the team site, you do have to email the GIS leads. Those emails are on the intranet site. That's Alec Dichter and Casey McLaughlin. But again, you can get all that information on the intranet site. But it's a really great way to stay up to date with all things GIS. And one of the last resources that I put on there are GeoServices. GeoServices are EPA contractors with years of experience supporting GIS and geospatial technologies at the EPA. They're available to provide geospatial support. So let's say you're more familiar with the Geo platform online and you're making a map and you're running into an issue, or there's something, the Geo platform online continuously is crashing, something like that. You can reach out to them, see what's going on, and they normally respond within a day or 2, so they're pretty quick. And the last resource that I have on there are open office hours. I hold these weekly for EPA staff every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Eastern time. And it's basically an open Teams meeting for anyone to hop on and ask questions about pretty much anything GIS. So if you have kind of a basic question on how do I access the Geo platform online, I'm on there to help. But if you have, more in-depth questions, or you just want someone to kind of, run some, I guess, like details by, I'm also on there and am always happy to help. If you do want that Thursday calendar invite, again, you can just ping me on Teams or email me, and I'm happy to send it over.
All right. On the Click training resources, I showed you the Click Intranet site. You do have to be, for anything on work.ep.gov, you do have to be on the VPN. Same thing with Click. Presently, you have to be on the VPN. We are making a jump to the cloud in 2023 that will allow you to access Click while off the VPN. I mentioned that Click in 45 session tomorrow. The way that's basically set up, it's more of a consumer situation where it's just showing you how to use an app, how to navigate between the sheets, different features that you can take advantage of as somebody that's just, in the read-only mode. The next, you can almost view these as going down the list. The next, if you find that interesting, you get some information out of that, you find it valuable. The Click user group focuses more on the developer side. So people are sharing tips and tricks on how to create some of those charts, how they modify their load scripts, things like that, the different resources they're connecting to. And so that's held monthly. And then also the free virtual workshops, and those are held by Click. They're fantastic. They go over a couple hours showing you how to create an app from scratch. And it's usually centered towards the public sector in one scenario of the workshops, and then another one is just kind of more of a basics training. But those are great to take advantage of. And then the continuous classroom is an on-demand resource. So there's virtual sessions and there are videos. So you sign up for the Click Continuous Classroom. You can do some on-demand stuff if you're looking at how to configure a particular chart or how to do a load script that maybe some other resources aren't able to provide. That's a great place to take advantage of as well. But if any of this kind of looks fantastic or interesting, a great step would be the 45 program overview tomorrow. It'll be held again next month. And thanks so much. If you have any questions, please reach out.
And so lastly, just wanted to, provide some points of contact. And I put DMAP support on there twice, sorry about that. And some key team members for all three tools. So again, we'll email this slide deck out and you'll have all of our emails. But that is our presentation. So I guess now if there are any questions, I'm happy to open it up.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. Yeah, I think we can move to the Q&A if people want to unmute and come on camera if they feel comfortable. Otherwise, if you put it in the chat, I can just read it out loud. Heather, I see your hands up.
Cool. So, hi, folks. I had a GIS question. So, as an intern who's like in a master's program that utilizes GIS, I was just wondering. I have joined some of the trainings, but I'm kind of fuzzy on, what they're typically on. My job doesn't use it currently, so I was sort of wondering how someone like me who has an interest in it, but my job doesn't require it, how I would, do like special projects basically utilizing the app. So I know we have a GIS center here in Region 9, so should I use those computers? Should I request the software to be installed on my laptop? It doesn't really seem justified. So I'm just wondering what y'all suggest. Thank you.
Yeah, so you can definitely reach out to your GIS lead. If you don't know who that is, that table again is on the intranet site, and that's linked in the presentation. They can give you access to Arc Pro, which is the desktop version. But I definitely encourage you to make a Geo Platform Online account. because Esri, which is, they're the vendor of this GIS software, they hold what's called a MOOC, a massive online course. And you can sign up for those, and they walk you through different tutorials and different labs. And typically you can do them on the Geo platform online, but they also have different ones that really involve pro. But those online courses are a really great way to get different scenarios and explore the different tools, even if you're not doing, GIS in your day-to-day responsibilities at the EPA.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is Arthur. I just posted a link out to the skills marketplace that's out there. That's a great resource to take advantage of if there are basically different programs and regions will post little side hustles. If you can work 20% of your time, if your supervisor agrees, you can look at the projects out there and volunteer to help another program or region. You might find something that's GIS related. You might find something that is DMAP related or geospatial, et cetera, or click related. So that's another avenue to find some other projects that might be hanging out there.
We have a question in the chat from Madison that says, I'm currently working on a story map and have been looking for resources or examples. The training online was super helpful, but is there anyone I should reach out to in order to learn more?
Yeah, so I think story maps are a very, very popular tool. We have a few webinars, links that I can send you. But again, I really think coming to those open office hours that I mentioned are great because you can kind of talk one-on-one and, share your screen, do anything, and get to know story maps. In my division, I also work with Alex O'Neill, who is kind of heading, I guess, story maps. So I'm happy to pass along his email as well. So yeah, I would think it'd be the Geo team, so Alex and I, and then really utilizing open office hours every Thursday.
Perfect, thank you. And we have another question in the chat from Jamie that says, I have been working a lot with Click, specifically the map features on Click, and they aren't the easiest features to work with compared to using ArcGIS Pro. Is there any help available that focuses on the map feature of Click, or would it be worthwhile to move my work over to Geo platform?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I was actually going to kick things off. If you could visualize a Venn diagram of DMAP, Click, and Geo platform, there is an overlap of how the tools kind of work together, but there are also like some tools that are just better at what they do. The Geo platform, its bread and butter is spatial data, and so water is primarily a huge user of that. They make a lot of use of it. And just sometimes when the data is overwhelmingly spatially related, the Geo platform and the GIS stuff is just going to make more sense. When you need to bring in different types of data that just aren't spatially related, Click starts to fill that void a little bit. DMAP fills the void of like maybe some pre-processing of massive data sets before the Geo platform or Click can ingest it. So they kind of all work hand in hand. But in answer to the Click map chart object, yes, there are resources. Namely in the Click Continuous Classroom, there are some there. There are Geo operations. Click does have the ability to run those, within intersect, kind of they're analogous to spatial stuff, spatial joins. But yeah, there's some training resources out there on those specifically, but it'd be worth a discussion to figure out, which is going to be the better tool over the long run for what you're trying to accomplish.
I have a question. Where do you guys like get all the data for this? Like, do you have a lot of offices that you collaborate with from within EPA, and then do you get to collaborate externally with non-EPA partners?
Amy, Caitlin, I can answer for Click real quick. And now I'll pass it to you guys. So for the latter question, getting data from partners, that's a possibility, yeah, for sure. So census data might be out there, shape files. Right now we're working on, other agencies just post data out there. And so individual developers or users of Click will find their data. They'll leverage those data sets that are being published, or their supervisor comes to them and says, hey, this is our database for enforcement. It's ISIS or something like that. We need to do something with this particular project, and then they'll leverage that. So EPA just has a number of big, massive databases out there. In the air quality side, it's AQS, air quality system. So it just depends. For the example that I showed, the return to work, it was the Office of Human Resources. They reached out to analytics at EPA.gov, and they said, hey, we've got this project that the deputy administrator wants to visualize the results that come in. They scoped it out, and we worked with them to develop that on their behalf. So it just kind of depends in where the data comes from. Caitlin or Amy?
I think for the Geo platform, it's a very similar answer. People, like Arthur said, can get data from anywhere, whether it's the census or from other agencies. I know I highlighted SEGS, and we really encourage, people to check out SEGS for data. It's cleaned up data, it's reliable, and it's authoritative. So that would probably be the number one place that I point people to if they don't already have data. But again, like Arthur said, people can come to open office hours or whoever, with maybe it's like lat longs of facilities, and it's data that they collected like in their division or something like that. So again, it really just depends on what they're trying to map, and I guess who the audience is.
Hi everyone, this is Amy. Not to repeat, but the answer is kind of the same for DMAP. A lot of people, there are the big data bases within the agency and outside of the agency that people can download data from and bring it into DMAP to analyze it. But a lot of people will also bring in data that they've collected within their own groups. Like, for example, I think a lot of the emergency response people utilize some of the cloud hosting capabilities within DMAP to store or host some of their field data that they collect. So it's similar idea that you're kind of bringing the data that you want to work with into the platform and then going from there.
Awesome. Thank you all. We have a question in the chat from Maya that says, what is the best way to include these and other data analysis / visualization skills on a federal resume?
As a loaded question. So I've been at the agency since 2007, been in the Fed space since 2003. I'll turn on my camera so you can see the smirk on my face. When it comes to the federal resume, do exactly what the announcement asks for. So if the question or the KS, it used to be KSAs, if they're looking for oral skills and things like that, literally in your resume or in some kind of letter, you say my oral presentation skills are blah blah blah. Make it as plain as possible. So if there's a particular requirement for business intelligence software, then speak about business intelligence software. and you can talk about it in the general context of Click and blah, blah, blah. More often than not, like it's kind of that's under the skills at the very end of the resume where you're talking about your software. It might be R. Instead of saying the Geo platform, you'd focus on ArcGIS. Click is a software, but you'd probably want to preface it and say it's a business intelligence software because people might not be familiar with it. But that's my 2 cents on the federal resume bit. Do exactly what the announcement says, nothing more, nothing less, and it'll make things easier.
I'm going to back up Arthur and completely agree. I actually came on as an intern as well during grad school, and then, transferred to full-time once I completed grad school. And I remember in the internship announcement, I looked for the keywords and I scattered them through my resume just so they could pick up that I was, I was able to do everything that they were looking for. So yeah, really echoing that fact. And agree with Arthur. I'll stop there.
Awesome. Thank you. And I see we have a hand up. Paitsu?
Hi, yes. Sorry, I'm in the office. This is a half-formed question, but I was wondering, I saw some mentioning of R and Python, and I've been wondering how often is the agency using, or how often are people actually utilizing R and Python to like manage data? And how do we find projects who are using those softwares?
Hi, this is Amy. I can say from the DMAP perspective, I know a lot of the projects that utilize DMAP also heavily utilize the R Studio Connect capability and R and Python to do a lot of like the coding and the analysis work. So I would say that's one of our big user bases is definitely like that community. I'm pretty sure there's an R user group, and then I think there's also a Python user group, if I'm not mistaken. I'll hop on the SharePoint site and see if I can find the links to those user groups. So as far as trying to find within the agency groups who are working on that kind of in that arena, that would probably be a good place to start by reaching out to those user groups and kind of seeing like where that work is happening at the agency.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Arthur shared in the chat the link to the data science team.
Yeah, you'll find. So I think the R user group tends to like SharePoint a bit better, and so what I'll do is also post the work.epa.gov data science page that has those links. But Teams is also the data science team is a great resource because it has all the channels that we're talking about: R, Python, and then GIS has their own team with sub channels and things like that. But I'll post that as well.
Awesome. Thank you all. And it is 12:44, so I don't want to take up any extra time from our presenters, but thank you so much for talking to the interns today. This was great, and we had some really great questions and resources, so we really appreciate it.
Great. Thanks, Dora.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.